Hello, everyone. Hello, thank you for joining us. I'm Karan. I'm the CMO of Mitte. We have our amazing panel here. We're just going to give it a few more seconds before we begin as more people join us. So please bear with us. Uh, Meanwhile, let you know that we have Lauren in the background who's organized this event, and she would, if you have any questions, just please feel free to write in the chat, and she'll help us moderate your questions. We will be doing audience Q&A in the end, but you don't have to wait until the end to ask questions. Just feel free to drop in your questions in the chat, and we will get to them in the end. Okay, great. I think we're going to start then. First of all, thank you all for joining me today. I'm personally very excited for this discussion. You know, as a water company, this is a topic that is very close to us. We spend a lot of time in our labs researching and developing different mineral water recipes. And I'm really honored to host a panel like this to discuss the topic of sports and hydration. I would like to start with a quick round of introductions. Alex, I'll start with you. You are a master trainer for Nike and a bodybuilding champion. Can you tell us a little bit about your background in fitness?
So thank you very much, Karen, for having me on here. This panel is already powerful. Just I get to look at these beautiful women. And so my background is actually a professional dancer for 15 years. And then I stepped off the stage as a dancer and stepped on the stage as an athlete. My dream was to become a bodybuilder. Nobody kind of, believed me or wanted to take the journey with me, coming from a dancer's background. No one thought quite possible to do it. But I did find the right team of trainers in all different areas to, help me help carry me to German champion and then to vice world champion in a very, very short time, actually. So that was a great short career, designing my body with food. And then during that time, realizing actually that I wanted to cross over into more of a functional performance-based everything and moved into CrossFit. I've been doing that now for about 3 years and not bodybuilding anymore, but still competing at quite a high level. Nike Master Trainer, dream job, get to be a part of people's journeys to a better self. I mean, what more can you ask for? And that's what I do every single day. I feel that the platform that I have is to reach people both physically and mentally through fitness and nutrition. It's a whole package. It's a positive mindset, yes, but it's also a realistic mindset. And through fitness and nutrition, you can change so much of your life. And I get to play a small role in people's journeys to do that. And I will continue doing that forever if I can. It's extremely fulfilling.
It's great to have you here, Alex. For those who don't know, Alex is now teaching all over Berlin, including her Bootcamp Strong Barre classes at Jane's Soulbase. I recommend everyone should check that out. Thanks for joining, Alex, once again. Moving on to Adelle, who is an elite endurance athlete. Adelle, please tell us a little bit about your background. Okay.
I'm so sorry, my internet is just briefly cut out there. So I completely missed what you said, but thank you so much for having me to be a part of this panel. I guess I'm assuming you want me to say a little bit about myself. So I am a British 800 metre track and field athlete. I've competed for Great Britain on a number of occasions at the World Championships, European Championships and Commonwealth Games. And at the moment I'm sort of preparing, working towards now the next year's Olympics in Tokyo 2021. And so hopefully I can talk a little bit about how hydration kind of feeds into my world as an elite athlete. I feel really grateful that I can kind of do something that I love every day through my job running. And sport is an amazing kind of thing to be a part of your life. So really, really glad that I have, been able to do something that I really enjoy as a job.
It's great to have you here, Adelle. Adelle also has a blog called Pretty Sporty. And if you want more insights about Adelle, I suggest that you sign up or you go to the blog. That gives you a window into her life on and off the track. And also, there are a lot of discussions happening around sports well-being and other topics that she's passionate about. So I highly recommend everyone to check that out. And last but not the least, we have Julia, who is a certified fitness and nutritional expert. Julia, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks for having me, Karen. I'm super excited to talk to all of you and exchange perspectives. So I started my career in fitness because I also did running, long distance running, so marathon, triathlon, and everything like that on a competitive level. I've stopped that now. Now I'm running just for fun, not competing anymore, and moved a bit into all the health part of sports, so doing mainly personal trainings for people with back issues, so in the prevention and rehabilitation things. And because I noticed when I was running myself that nutrition and hydration has a major impact on performance, I did some education to become a nutrition coach and sports nutrition coach. And since then, I also worked in a few supplement companies, and I'm writing and coaching people all about nutrition. Like, it's amazing to have an impact and meet everybody where they are at the moment, and help them to improve just slightly on their journey and becoming more healthy. So it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us today. I'm really honored to have all three of you here with me today. Jumping into the topic, I think we all are aware that we lose electrolytes during the workout. Electrolytes are essentially minerals like sodium, calcium, magnesium, or potassium. These minerals, they are vital to many key functions in the body. And these minerals are washed out when we sweat, which is a natural cooling response of the body. So my question is, what should we know about mineral supply, and how does water fit into that? Maybe I would stick with you, Julia, from sports nutrition point of view, and then ask the others.
So as you correctly said, as soon as we start sweating, we also lose minerals. We mainly lose potassium, sodium, and magnesium, and we need to replace those. And we need to replace those quite quickly. So when we just step a step back and just see how much water the human body has, it's 50 to 60% just water. And as soon as we lose just 2% of this water our body contains, we see a significant decrease in performance, especially when it comes to endurance. And if we lose 4%, we already get cramps and serious muscle issues, and decrease even further. And coming to 6%, it already starts to get dangerous for health. And if we calculate it, if you have a 70 kilogram person, he or she has 40 liter waters, and losing just 2% is around a liter. That really happens quickly. So a trained athlete in a summer environment would maybe sweat around 2.5 liters per hour if he really trains intensely. An untrained person is more likely to lose 1 liter sweat in an hour. Depends a bit, of course, on intensity and temperature. So you really need to start hydrating before you start working out, and also during the workout, especially if you're in the endurance thing and are training for more than 1 hour or 45 minutes, it gets important to hydrate. So if you don't do it, you really get serious muscle issues quite soon.
Interesting. Yeah, there are certain minerals which are highly bioavailable through water, like calcium and magnesium. And I guess that's where the role of water becomes super critical to replenish the lost minerals that quickly. Thank you. Thanks for answering that. Alex, I would like to ask you, when it comes to strength training or heavy lifting, is there a particular regimen you have? I mean, is there a predetermined hydration plan that is tied to your sweat rate? Or what's your regimen? What hydration regimen looks like? Alex, we can't hear you.
all these mutes on and off.
Yep.
Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, drinking water during, pre, post, and throughout the day it's so important for it, especially for an athlete like what Julia was just explaining. I'm 70 kilos, so I'm going to be, losing more or sweating more than the average person. Therefore, I do need to be more aware of drinking. And the problem is, during training, it's not normally a problem, because you actually feel thirsty. You feel that you need to drink a little bit more. The problem is actually outside of the gym. It's the 8 or more glasses throughout the rest of the day that people are not very good with, and they tend to drink throughout their training, like myself. But then my problem is, how do I keep that consistency throughout the rest of the day? And I think there's a couple of different things that you can do to maintain that. And for example, buy a great water bottle. I always say to clients, go and purchase a really nice water bottle that you have with you. The problem is not for me during training. The problem is before and after.
Generally it is believed that when your body needs fluid, you feel thirsty. My question is thirst a reliable gauge of fluid needs during exercise?
Julia, do you want to answer that one on a scientific side of things? I always say, if I'm about to compete, maybe Adelle, you can agree, you can answer this too. I need to know like days in advance that I'm hydrated and that I'm fueled for that particular workout, like not full in my stomach of water, but that I'm hydrated, not 1 or 2 hours beforehand, but literally like 24 hours beforehand, that my fuel intake and my hydration is key to how I'm going to perform the next day. So I don't wait to see if I'm thirsty throughout a workout. I always feel if I'm thirsty, it's too late. That's my feeling.
Julia, Adelle?
Yeah, no, I just on that, I totally agree. I would make sure that I'm really well hydrated in the days leading up to competing, and making sure that when it comes to race day, I'm not feeling thirsty, because that is a sign that it's a bit too late, like Alex said as well. So totally agree.
Yeah, I would also comment on that. I completely agree with the ladies. And I think there are 2 different points we need to look at. One is feeling thirsty during the workout. As soon as I start feeling thirsty, it's already kind of late, because on average, we start feeling thirsty once we lost like 1.5 liter of water. And as we just figured out before, it's like 800 milliliters to 1 liter, where we already should start supplementing, or refueling. Supplementing is wrong, and supplementing minerals maybe. So that we can drink like in 250 milliliters, 500 milliliter patches before we start getting thirsty. And also what Adelle and Alex said, fueling up before, like at least 24 hours is super important, because when your muscles start storing carbs, glycogen, they bind water, and they need this water to fill up the carb storages. And if you don't fuel properly before, you will just have less energy. That's scientifically proven.
Makes sense. Great. Thanks for clarifying that. So Adelle, you have been competing on the international stage for over 10 years now. Tell us about your personal experience with hydration, and if it's any different for a runner.
So my personal experience with hydration is I kind of experienced a lot of muscle cramps as a junior, when I probably wasn't as clued up on how important hydration was. And, it kind of came to my attention that it was important to drink electrolytes as well as water, to try and make sure that I was getting those minerals on board. And then kind of as I became slightly more of a senior athlete and started going on training camps and traveling a bit more and going in the lab, it really kind of, became part of my like everyday routine to think about just making sure that I'm really well hydrated before I even start exercising, so that those losses aren't as great. And I think you become a lot more aware of that when you go to extreme lengths of, pushing your body really hard and going to altitude, which is obviously a really dry environment as well. And I would go in the lab pre-altitude as part of that preparation in the hypoxic chamber. And I'd noticed that, hop on the scales before I got on the treadmill, be running for over an hour or so, and come off, and I will have lost, over a kg of fluid. So I think that's when I started to realize actually how important that process of making sure that I was really well prepped and hydrated before I even started exercising was. And then I think kind of more recently, my experience with hydration is actually looking at how that affects my monthly cycle with regards to menstruation. I've been working closely with a menstrual tracking app and trying to get the most out of my training as a female athlete. And something that's kind of been brought to my attention is how we hold on to fluid and at certain times in the month, and particularly in a luteal phase, which is kind of your second half of your menstrual cycle, when estrogen isn't as high and progesterone is higher. It's a really crucial phase for actually becoming more dehydrated than you would usually, because your body is kind of that opposite. So obviously when you've got estrogen, it's kind of like an antidiuretic, so you can feel bloated and things, whereas progesterone is the complete opposite. So that's really important for me at that phase, that I'm thinking about actually drinking a little bit more and making sure that I'm maybe taking a few more electrolytes on board than I would at other times during the month as well. So yeah.
I have another question for you, but I would like to ask Alex if you want to add something to that.
No, I was just sucked into that one. That's fantastic. I think I'm really glad that you just touched on that, because when the estrogen is in the body, and this goes for a lot of women, if there's women listening right now, we do feel bloated, but don't be afraid to drink water. The water is going to help, flush water out. And I think that's where a lot of people get confused and they feel bloated and they don't drink anything. And it is the opposite. I mean, Julia, correct me if I'm wrong at any point, but do keep your fluids going. That will flush out any of that bloated kind of feeling, or help create more of a flush to the body. So I'm glad that we just touched on that. It's really important and very, very overlooked.
Absolutely. Adelle, going back to you, you mentioned before the event that you used to struggle a lot with muscle cramps and fascia pain. Fascia is basically connective tissue network beneath our skin, which can also be very easily mistaken as muscle pain. Of course, all of this is also linked with hydration. I would like you to tell us a bit more about your experience with this particularly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think something that I've realized over the years is that I don't actually struggle too much with my actual muscle tightness. I think at the training load I adapt really well to. It's actually my fascia, which is like, the sort of thin casing around the muscle that seems to get really tight. And you're completely right that is very much based on your hydration status. If you're really dehydrated, then that kind of can become a lot restricted and make the muscle feel tight, when actually it's just that kind of outside. So kind of thinking of being hydrated in that sense is really important, but also when I'm having soft tissue to kind of get that release, making sure that I'm taking fluids before and after, because like Alex was saying about the flushing and getting rid of everything from the system, it's really important to keep drinking from that perspective as well.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that. Julia, I would like to ask you, you do a lot of high intensity interval and functional training. Tell us about your hydration regimen. Is there anything in specific that you follow related to HIIT and functional training?
So especially for the kind of HIIT training classes we do at Beat 81, which is basically we have on average 23 to 26 minutes effective training time, and in between there are small breaks. So this is not too long. And I found that when we drink in between, unless it's super hot, it's even a bit disturbing. So I would recommend coming rather well fueled, drink the last thing like 20 minutes before, and then go through this 26 minutes workouts. That's doable if you're well hydrated before. And if you need to drink in between, which is perfectly fine, because it's also kind of a bit of a personal preference, and sometimes it's nice if you have a break, you just drink a bit and get a bit of a refreshment, that you drink water without gas. I think just water is enough. There's no carbs needed, not in this intensity we are working in. Might look differently in professional training. because gas tends to lift the diaphragm, and then it can cause turbulences when going into this high intensity training with like heavy weights or burpees or something like that again. So I would rather drink before and immediately after and push through this 25 minutes.
Yeah, makes sense. I know the topic is about water and minerals, but I also want to touch upon vitamins and carbohydrates, without which the picture would not be complete. Julia, I'll put this question for you first. When we sweat, there are very few vitamins that are lost. So, is there a need to incorporate vitamin supplements during the workout? What's your view on that?
So my view, as far as I know from sports science, is that they would recommend it depending on the length and intensity of your workout. So as long as you're working below the aerobic threshold, you would not necessarily need vitamins unless you extend a length for 2 hours or more, when you start losing more energy in general. And if you have a shorter but quite intense workout, they would say it's fine to just go for minerals first.
Mm-hmm. And what about carbohydrates? I mean, we know that they're essential to replace the lost energy during a workout. Do you recommend incorporating simple carbohydrates, maybe mixing some juice with your mineral water or anything else?
I would definitely recommend it, because it's easy for the body to use it as energy, especially if you have simple carbohydrates and not complex ones like you have in juice normally, or in bananas, or also in special sports jumps or drinks. Then your body can just use that immediately, and you keep your storages for later if you train longer. So it gives a lot of energy for sure. And it's also part of keeping the osmotic value of a drink. So if you have a mineral drink, it would always contain a bit of carbs, because carbs are needed to keep the osmotic value correct.
Got it. Alex, Adelle, do you have anything to add to that?
Just a little bit about, I think we talk about sports drinks quite freely because we know about them, we know what to look for. But I think for the average kind of, day-to-day athletes, so people who go to Beat 81 or who do like a spin class, or just, incorporate some sort of sport throughout the day, do, take some time to do a bit of research on your sports drink, because, when you turn that gorgeous, colorful thing over and have a look what's in the ingredients on the back, you start counting to 13, 14, 15 ingredients. Just be a bit aware you don't need that. You literally, like what Julia said, or Karen, you're the same, half juice, half water with a pinch of salt. I mean, sometimes that's all you need. So if you're not an elite athlete, but that point that you just said, Julia, which is awesome, sometimes just refueling quickly with something and keeping your storages high, you can make that at home. So fresh juice halfway, the rest with water or even less, and a pinch of salt should do you if you've got like a long kind of endurance little workout, or with a friend ahead of you.
Thanks. Adelle?
Yeah, absolutely. Just reiterating what Julia and Alex said. I mean, even, when I'm competing, I keep it pretty simple. I probably most days would just do, your juice and salt combination, because I'm definitely a big sodium sweater. I can tell that you can kind of feel your skin afterwards. You feel a little bit like you've got salt on your skin. So that's kind of how you know. But if I was ever going to opt for something on race day that, is just a bit lighter, I would say, it would be kind of non-evanescent. I wouldn't go for anything that's got any gas in it. And it would probably be a hypotonic rather than isotonic, so less sugary, because obviously that then impacts how you feel when you're competing with sugar levels and things. So I think definitely reading labels are important, because you don't want to be having anything that you actually just don't need. And just keeping it simple is important as well.
Yeah, great, absolutely. Alex, there is this myth, there are many myths, but there's this one myth that goes around that, drinking fluids during the exercise, it slows you down. What are your thoughts around that?
Oh, I love me a bit of bro science. No, of course it does not slow you down. I mean, listen, it does depend at the end of the day on what your sport is. Okay, so if I'm going in for a 40-minute endurance workout, which I normally do in my conditioning in the morning, I'm on the rower hitting a particular speed for as long as I can, and as soon as I go over that particular speed, I need to do 10 burpees. Now, I'm not going to go, and I'll do that for 40 minutes and then get back on the rower. So you don't want to have this full stomach, and like Julia said, you're not going to be drinking throughout your workout. If you're fueled and you're prepared for that particular workout, you shouldn't need to really drink throughout it. In saying that, I do always have a bottle of water next to me. If it's an endurance session that I'm doing, it does have electrolytes in it. But I'm not a fan because it makes my mouth slimy. What I do need is just to literally rinse my mouth every now and then, just to feel that my lip is not like stuck up on my teeth or anything like this. It's a preference. It's a personal preference. It is definitely a myth. But again, when it comes to strength training, you need to be drinking during, pre, and post. And when it comes to endurance, you need to just know your body, and you don't want things jumping up and down in your belly. It's the last thing that you actually need.
Yep, makes sense. We are getting a lot of audience questions, which I would love to get to at some point fairly quickly. So to wrap it up, Julia, I'm going to ask you my last question. This is specifically to do with recovery. How important would you say hydration is post-workout? You have, you briefly talked about that earlier. I would love for you to expand on that a little bit more. The role of water hydration in recovery.
So water and hydration in general are crucial for recovery, of course, because you need kind of to rinse your body and get some fluid, also for the fascia. And also the muscles, as I said before, immediately need water and carbohydrates to start rebuilding the glycogen storages. And of course, you need to fuel up on all the minerals like sodium, potassium, magnesium, and also iron you lose when you're sweating. And especially magnesium is well known for preventing cramps. But also sodium is sometimes underrated a bit in the public discussion, because if you sweat a lot, you lose a lot of sodium, and especially in endurance, this can become quite unhealthy. So if you sweat a lot, you should start drinking something with natrium. Normally water is perfectly fine for that. Just put a bit of salt in it when it's super hot already during the session, so that your body can start recovering immediately once you're stopped. So it's important for everything, for getting the stress out of the body and for getting new energy in and starting all the repair processes the body is going to undertake as soon as you stop. And don't wait 2 hours until you drink. Just drink immediately. And after a strength session or strength cardio combination, it might even make sense to add some protein, amino acid things, depending on what your goal, your sport, and your training status is.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that about sodium. I mean, sodium has such a negative reputation that a lot of people think sodium is bad, but it's one of the most essential minerals for our body. I mean, our body can't function without that, and especially during the workouts and exercise, we lose a lot of sodium, like you said. So it's quite important to replenish that to be at the right level. Adelle, do you have anything to add to that before we turn to audience questions?
No, I totally agree about the sodium point, because that's something that I've definitely experienced. But magnesium as well is really helpful for me with muscle cramps as well, kind of avoiding getting to that point of dehydration, which I don't do too regularly now, but my younger self definitely experienced. So yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, great, thanks. Before I turn to audience questions, is there anything that you think we haven't discussed that we should discuss? This will be a great time to bring that up.
I mean, I would love to just, not ever forget about or remind people, that water or glasses of water should be ingested with your meal or your snack, because the electrolytes that are naturally found in food that we eat are absorbed more if you're drinking water at the same time. So drink a glass of water with your meal. And that's also going to help you with your reminding of, drinking water. Don't think, oh, I need to have a drink of water I think the old myth was people who wanted to be super skinny would have a glass of water and I wouldn't eat as much. So get that myth out of your head and start telling yourself that if I actually have a glass of water, all the natural electrolytes from my whole foods, so get rid of supplements even, are going to be more absorbed into the body, which is what we want to have before we even reach for a supplement, is our whole foods. So start maybe making that as a habit. I saw one of the questions coming in about do any of us use an app to remind ourselves to drink water? And maybe that can be your real life app, that every time you eat, that you also have a glass of water with your food, and in return, the electrolytes will be absorbed into your body.
That's a great point. Thanks for bringing that up. Adelle, any final thoughts?
No, I actually have nothing else to add to that. I think that's a really good point. I was literally thinking the same. My nutritionist regularly says that, if you hydrate while you're eating, then you're already getting those electrolytes. So you don't even need to kind of think about that added element if you, aren't exerting yourself too much. So yeah, that's a really good point.
Great, thanks. Julia, final thoughts? Great, then I guess we will turn to audience questions. There are a lot of questions that we are getting in. Alex, thanks for taking the first one already. I will now pick questions randomly, and please feel free to anyone can take these questions, or all three of you can share your perspective. The first question is, does sparkling water or the temperature of water affect my workout, or it doesn't matter?
Oh yeah, go Julia.
Okay, I think I just mentioned it before as a side note. It may lift your diaphragm, and it may cause like a gassy feeling in your stomach, and then it's just not pleasant. But to my knowledge, it doesn't really affect your workout as long as you feel comfortable. So it's a bit of kind of personal preference. Mm-hmm. I would drink still water, but I think you can try it out for yourself. If you prefer sparkling water and it works for you, it might also be fine.
Alex, you wanted to add something?
No, I was actually just going to say that Julia did hit that with mentioning before in her comment about it does lift your diaphragm up. And yeah, that was that. Temperature wise, I think, Julia, correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't matter. It tends to be, for me, but we're elite athletes, so it's different. I know if it's too cold, it's just uncomfortable for my body. I do try and go for kind of like a kind of tap temperature or a room temperature water when I'm competing. But that's, I think, again, personal preference.
Yeah, if you want to add numbers, 10 to 15 degrees is the water temperature the body can absorb the most efficient. So I think it matches your tap water temperature rule of thumb, more or less. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that.
Thanks for answering that. Great. Next one is an interesting question. So this one is, if I've had alcohol the day before, should I be drinking more water before my workout the next day? And what would you suggest? How does this affect hydration? Who would like to take that?
I don't know, but before we even get there, good on you for showing up for your workout the next day. I think maybe one of the others can take this. I don't know too much about that one.
Julia?
Yeah, so alcohol, I forgot the details on it, but alcohol for sure gets body, or how to say it, like makes everything a bit thicker and get minerals out of your muscles and just stresses your whole body out. And so you not just need to drink more, but you need also to refuel on minerals and vitamins and to help your body to just detox in every possible way. Showing up for your workout is, as Alex said, the first great thing, because you sweat all the crap out, and then just make sure that you stay normally hydrated. Also because the capacity of your body to absorb water is limited. So more than 800 milliliters water per hour is unlikely that you store it anyway. And if you come to the workout and feeling like completely full of water, you won't enjoy your workout. So just make sure you constantly hydrate once you woke up again.
I second both of you. I think your commitment is admired and hugely respected if you still are committed to show up for the workout next day. Great. The next question is from Sophie. Why do trained athletes sweat more than untrained ones? I observe that myself, the fitter I am, the more I sweat. But then again, fitter people should not be as exhausted as untrained ones doing a couple of push-ups. Adelle, what are your thoughts on this?
So I'm not sure exactly. I don't know the science behind it, but I have been told by my physiologist before that the reason why you sweat more when you're fitter is because your body's more efficient at regulating your body temperature. So that's one way of your body kind of regulating your body temperature is through sweating. And I know I sweat loads, so I think it's a good thing, but it just means you just have to be really on it with hydration before you even start exercising.
Julia, Alex, would you like to comment on that? Great. Okay. Well, the next question is from Anton. How much would you recommend to drink before a workout? Let's say I go on a 2-hour bike ride. How much should I drink before?
So make sure you start refueling the 24 hours before. 2 hours is a quite long bike ride, especially if you're going to be around the aerobic threshold. And then you need to calculate for yourself how much water you need. So an average is per kilo body weight, it's like 40 milliliters water. For most men, that turns out around somewhere 3 liters a day. And then you should refuel during your bike ride in small portions, like 1/4 liter, like every half an hour at least, so that you stay hydrated. And once you get off your bike, drink a bigger portion again. And many athletes say, I don't know, ladies, what you think about it in different sports, but for running or long distance running, I would stop drinking at least 20 minutes before the race starts, because otherwise I just need to have a break, and that's annoying.
Great, thanks for taking that one. The next question is, what do you prefer, tap water or mineral water? Or do you even care what you drink?
I prefer tap water. I grew up in Australia, so mineral water was not really a thing. So coming over to Europe, I was like, why is everybody drinking bubbly water? And I think it, on one side it's what you grow up with, and on the other side, I do a lot of sport, so bubbly water lifts your diaphragm. It's annoying. You can't kind of guzzle it fast, which can be a good thing as well. And but I do enjoy it as at the end. So when I finish like a workout and I'm super thirsty, I do enjoy bubbly water for some reason, but I would go with distill.
Great. And in terms of the mineral profile of the water, would you prefer higher mineralized water or low mineralized water? Julia, Adelle, what are your thoughts?
I think I'd probably prefer high mineralized water if it means that I'm not having to supplement with a load of electrolytes and put that into my water. So yeah, I think that's probably an easier way. If you're drinking high mineral water all the time and you are exercising as much as I am, then I guess you wouldn't have to think about that added electrolyte as much, which would be, pretty useful.
Great. Julia, I think you do a lot of yoga sessions as well. So I guess the next question would go to you. The question is, what would be the right way to hydrate during yoga sessions?
So I think there are many different perspectives also according to the kind of yoga you practice. I'm currently, or for a few years now, working with the Ashtanga yoga method. And there we would say, try to not drink for 1 hour at least before the yoga session, and try not to drink during the yoga session, because it's a low intensity thing you are doing. Even if you have an exhausting session, it's still low intensity in terms of cardio and muscle strength normally. And in yoga, it's very crucial, especially when you do fancy poses, that you really engage the core muscles to protect the back. And if you really want to work with the so-called bandhas, if you're attending yoga classes, you know what I'm talking about, then it's quite hard if you have a lot of water in your stomach to really apply the bandhas and hold the body strength you're supposed to hold during yoga. So I would stop drinking 1 hour before and drink after again. But that's a very kind of special for yoga thing, for sure.
Great, thanks for asking. So we covered alcohol, and next on the list is caffeine. So the question is, besides from everything you would drink to compensate a potential mineral loss, do you drink anything to boost your performance? Example, there are some drinks out there that have caffeine in them.
I think Adelle and I could probably both jump in here. So caffeine, it's my hot date, it's my daily hot date. I'm a massive coffee lover, but I am aware of drinking a glass of water before I have a coffee. That's my rule. If I have a glass of water, then I have a coffee, doesn't matter where I am. And I do use it as a performance enhancer. Yes, 100%. I love the studies done on caffeine. I've actually read quite a few of them. And my nutritionist is, you know, he's also big on caffeine when it comes to his athletes. And it's you know, why not? If it works for you, you know, you know exactly what you're putting into your body. It's when you put it into your body, so 30 minutes before at a minimum, otherwise it's not going to do anything. It takes time to go into the body. But then coming from a bodybuilding, you know, career where I would use caffeine to actually pump my muscles up. This was hilarious. So, you know, right before I went on stage, about 20 minutes before I went on, I would get like what the triathletes use in the gel form with caffeine in it, like 200 milligrams. And it was the most horrible taste. And I would squeeze that into my mouth, and literally 20 minutes later, I'd go bend and pump up. It was incredible. But now I use it as a performance enhancing to fuel my performance if I'm competing. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, Adelle, your thoughts?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I love caffeine for competing. I think, you know, on competition day, you just want to feel snappy and good, and caffeine is amazing. It's probably the only thing that I do use that I find really helpful for, you know, just getting me ready, no matter kind of how I'm feeling beforehand. I would say that I am quite a caffeine sensitive person. So if I'm having it on a day-to-day basis, similar to what Alex said, I would always make sure that I'm hydrated when I'm having it. If I'm not doing a key session, I would normally, you know, avoid caffeine, and I definitely avoid it after midday. So it would always be, you know, a morning thing if I do choose to have caffeine. But on race day, that's a different story. I kind of tend to, you know, have as much as I can because it makes me feel really good. And I would probably take that on board, you know, an hour before warming up, and then I would have a little bit more an hour before I compete as well. And that, you know, seems to work for me. But I think everybody kind of metabolizes it differently. So if you're looking to use caffeine in performance, then I would definitely recommend trialing that in training beforehand. But yeah.
Great. Yeah, we are going to run out of time pretty soon. I will try and squeeze in a couple more questions before we wrap up. The next question is, any suggestions on iron replenishment from natural sources or beverages? Julia?
So I would definitely always recommend to check if you actually need to really supplement iron. Because if you don't need to supplement, it also can be dangerous to bring your natural mineral balance out of balance. So please check if you need supplements, no matter what kind of supplements you take actually. And then what kind of iron works depends a lot on your body. Everybody metabolizes iron differently, especially for iron. That's the crucial thing. In general, we would say iron from animal products like meat is easier to digest for the body. And if you take iron out of plants, or soy, for example, also contains iron, drink always orange juice or eat something with vitamin C to support the body in digesting that iron and getting it to where it belongs. If you want a natural supplement which is higher in iron and not a normal food but a supplement, there are pharmacies selling actually iron things like iron juices made out of different herbs which are high in iron. If you need a natural supplement, I would go for something like that rather than pills. Yeah.
An interesting fact, most of the natural mineral water that comes out of the ground, it comes with iron in it. And most of the companies actually take out the iron from the water because otherwise it would taste really bad and we don't want to sell products that taste bad. But there are still some waters in Germany, especially you can find them. They're called healing, they're in the healing water category where they don't take out the iron and they're sold with iron in them. And actually iron is highly bioavailable through water as well. And water could be, water with iron content in it could also be a great source for your body actually. Okay, last few questions to you. I guess this is for all three of you. Do you guys use apps that remind you of drinking regularly? Alex, please.
I can jump in. No, I don't, not with water. I have enough apps and enough things on my phone. That's something that I can, I can try and remind myself to do by having a nice water bottle, and every time I finish it, that I fill it up again. So try and stay away from anything, unless I had a problem, unless something that was, medically wrong or I really needed to do it, then no. When I was competing as a bodybuilder, I had to measure the water. So that was very, very important. And even then I had my bottle and I had like lines on it and I would write on it and just carry it everywhere with me. So no, I don't use any apps. I don't know about the others.
Yeah.
I think what Alex just said before, like establishing those habits, drinking with food and having a nice water bottle is super helpful. And then I noticed for myself, sometimes tap water in Berlin is disgusting, depending on which household you get it from. And then I tend to not drink it because I'm just not excited about what's in my bottle. And then I try to brew myself some tea and take cold tea, for example, with me. So that I'm just a bit more excited to drink. That might also be helpful.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I actually don't use an app to remind me to drink. I think maybe because my lifestyle is kind of based around performance, it is just habit to have that in my routine, but yeah, I totally agree, like having something that you're looking forward to drinking, or having it in a nice bottle. I have a tea sort of infused thing where I put my little vines in and stuff, and even if you add like a lemon in there or something, it just makes it slightly more exciting than just to look forward to actually hydrating. So yeah, I think little things like that can help. But yeah, if an app's going to help, inform that regular drinking to make sure that you are hydrated for your session, then I don't see that as a negative. I just personally don't use them myself.
Okay, the last question for the day. We're already running out of the time. The question is, I see some runners carrying a water bottle with them while running. Is it recommended to drink while running? Adelle?
I actually don't drink. If I'm going out for a steady run, I would probably never drink during it, because my longest run is probably 10 miles, and I'm doing that just over an hour, so I probably wouldn't need to drink if I'm well hydrated beforehand. And if it's a session, then obviously you have time in between each rep to have a quick drink if you feel like you need it. Generally, again, if you're feeling well hydrated beforehand, then you shouldn't need to have a drink until afterwards. But it really depends on how long that period of exercise is for. Like Julia said, if you're exercising well over an hour, then you might need to take fluids on board.
Yeah, great. I think that's a great note to end on. I want to thank all three of you, Alex, Adelle, Julia, for taking the time out today and joining us. I have really enjoyed this conversation. It has been very enlightening, and it was great to have you. Thank you so much for joining, and hopefully we'll do this again.